All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Today's conversation, we're going to talk all about the Benjamins. It's all about growth and how your partner programs can deliver incremental value to your business. So for all of you that don't know me, my name is Amalia Thomas, and I am the Chief Revenue Officer for Ansira. And joining me today, I skipped ahead. Joining me today, we have Haley from Echo, who is a channel marketing manager, and Haram, who is the director of channel marketing for Generac. So what we're going to discuss today is how each of them have optimized their programs in order to deliver growth for their business. Before we get started, let's talk about, I am not good at this, apologies about that. Let's talk about some numbers. So across Ansira, we see millions of different data points across our ecosystem. And when we looked at those data points alongside with survey results across a few thousand channel partners, we dug into the data and analyzed it. And what we found was that when co-op utilization increases by 1 percentage point, we see a 7% increase in more leads and 15% increase in revenue across the program's respective rooftops. How we define the rooftops, that's your dealers, distributors, franchise owners. So what would a 7% increase in leads and 15% increase in revenue mean for your business if each of your rooftops were to deliver that to your business? Now, what would that mean if you were to double that to 2% or higher? The impact on your overall business is pretty substantial. And the point I'm trying to make and what we're going to discuss here today is that your partner program is really a fantastic growth revenue driver for your business. What's key and critical and what we'll get into today with Haram and Haley is that you need to be intentional in optimizing and enabling your partners to ensure that you are setting them up for success. So that way they are an effective growth engine for your business. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So Haram, I will start with you. So could you please help the audience understand a little bit more about the Generac model, and then help us also understand where is growth coming from today that wasn't there 2 to 3 years ago?
Sure. So I work in the industrial energy division within Generac. Generac has several businesses. There's residential, clean energy, chore business, and industrial. So we recently launched about a year ago the new hyperscale generators. Has anyone heard of AI, maybe data centers? They consume a lot of power and they need backup energy just to make sure that the data centers don't shut down. There's a power outage. So Generac started making those hyperscale generators, and that's been driving a lot of our revenues. And we also had to enable our channel partners to be able to sell those generators. So we invested more in co-op, in streamlining their experience so that they can have a better experience selling these products as well that we create.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And shifting to you, Haley, similar question. How would you describe your ecosystem at Echo? And where is growth coming from today that it wasn't there a few years ago?
Yeah, so for those of you who maybe don't recognize the Echo name, we're an outdoor power equipment company. So we do chainsaws, leaf blowers, string trimmers. And we have a really unique business model within our ecosystem in that we have a 2-tier distribution model. Unique in a few ways in that we're currently in the middle of a transformation within our distributor businesses to see the 3rd generation of family-owned business owners step into the leadership roles within their companies. So we've built long-standing, really deep relationships with them, which has allowed us, when we get to the growth side of the question, to make really strategic, sometimes tough decisions for growth, to be very forward thinking. We pride ourselves on that at Echo, that we're the first in the industry to offer things to our partners and to our dealers. So sometimes that means a tough business decision, and they're very supportive of that because of the long-standing relationship that we have. The other unique thing about our ecosystem is that Echo as a company actually owns our own distributor network. So our sales, our marketing, our customer service teams on a day-to-day basis are embedded in that dealer business. So we understand, we get to celebrate the wins, but also deeply understand the challenges that can affect the ability to grow within that network. And, we've grown in a few different ways. Echo as a business unit has also grown into new areas of business. So we have an industrial power equipment business. We've launched gas-powered lawnmowers. We spent a lot of time expanding in battery-powered equipment as well. So that all leads to business growth, but really our relationships, right? Our growth is kind of built on 3 pillars. It's built on education, diversity, and customization. That's what we pride our business on, and that's in the sales, the marketing, programs, promotions, everything.
That's great. What a wonderful description also in terms of how you've been able to take a very tenured program and continue to optimize it, right? And again, it's all about the relationships. So shifting back to you, Haram. So I know in discussions that you and I have had, you previously mentioned that the co-op utilization rate for Generac Industrial was on the lower side when you first started on the program. So what were the 1 or 2 specific changes that you made within the platform and program that turned your big industrial dealers into real growth partners?
So we've got 25 independent distributors that we work with, and I'm going to use the word distributor and dealer interchangeably. Apologies for that. But so the challenge that we had was the portal that we had industrial information, residential information, and it was very hard to figure out what was relevant to our channel partners. So people used to log in, figure out that, there's a lot of residential stuff, a lot of chore stuff, and then log out and never come back. So what we had to do initially was to make sure that we had to sort of clean up our marketing on-demand platform, make it easy for our channel partners to come in and find what they were looking for. So big shout out to Mandy from Ansira, who helped us sort of clean up a lot of that stuff. I had to beg, borrow, steal resources internally to make sure that happened. But once we cleaned up and we had a good user experience, we invited our dealers back into the platform. They saw that, there's a lot of assets, a lot of tools that they could use. That really got the engagement going. And then it was more of a pull rather than a push for them to use the platform. The next thing that we did was we also made more resources available to them in terms of agencies that they could work with to use those assets and run digital marketing efforts. So not just providing assets, but also some coaching and guidance on how to use those things and have our agencies work with them. So those are kind of the 2 things that we worked on, and that has been very successful.
And would you mind sharing what sort of impact that has had on your business?
Yeah, so I think the number of asset downloads increased more than 160%. So it more than doubled their engagement with us. Their spend on digital marketing efforts went up by more than 41%. So a lot more engagement, a lot more connection with us, and using the right things for promotions. Because dealers, they used to go into our MOD platform, buy a bunch of T-shirts, coffee mugs, and call it a day. So now they're using the co-op funds for the right things, according to us, where things are a lot more trackable.
That's wonderful. Great. Now, Haley, shifting back to you. So your program has moved, or was previously more of a traditional direct mail program, but it has now moved into much more of a digital driven model. So what were the biggest growth challenges before you leaned in to make that change? And separately, what specific changes to your program and tech stack helped you with your distributors in terms of driving growth and loyalty with their dealer networks?
Yeah, so our biggest challenge, we went from 80% traditional to 80% digital nearly overnight. The biggest challenge was just how quickly it happened. So thankfully, in 2020, we had begun our partnership with an acquired Ansira company, and we again, going back to the foundation of our program is education. So we were building and preparing for a lot of educations, FAQ sheets, how-to guides, right? We were building that foundation of our program because our previous program just didn't really have the ability or the, optimization for digital. So that was why we chose to partner with Ansira at the time. So we were already building a lot of those assets to build the foundation of our program. We expected that transition to take about 3 years to pivot into the 80% digital where we would like to see the program on a year-over-year basis. And it happened in about 3 days because of COVID. So we were fortunate that our dealers and our partners and our distributors quickly understood the need for the transition. And because our partnership had already begun and we had built a lot of those, it made that transition much simpler. But the reason we were successful was because of our partnership with Ansira, and the team stepped up. Right, our contract wasn't built on digital. Our team members were not prepared for the digital shift that quite literally happened overnight. But our partners in Ansira, our partners in our sales reps and our distributors quickly pivoted, and we worked as a team to have that preferred outcome. So now we have that foundational understanding. So now we're in the optimization phase, whereas we were kind of expecting to still be in the learning and transition phase at this point.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of impact have you seen on your business with that shift towards digital?
Yeah, it makes it easier to explain the success of the program, right? We actually have numbers on a piece of paper or on a dashboard that we can share with them and explain what an impression means, what click-through rates mean. But doing postcards and billboards, once I spend the money as a marketer, I can't take anything to them except for, maybe the return that an ad agency from, a billboard would have. But I have tangible in real-time metrics, and I'm able to influence the outcome. So as a marketer, if the KPIs are not meeting my expectations on a, growth basis or a, dollar for dollar investment basis, I can go directly to the team and say, I'm not happy with this, and we can impact that. So again, it's just that education and making them understand how much more impactful, right? Buying behaviors have shifted online. That's where we need to be. And so slowly over time, they're starting to understand it, but a lot quicker than we ever would have expected.
That's great. Again, major kudos to you, right? In taking a very tenured, mature program, right? Where behaviors tend to, be very much so in the traditional sense, right? You've moved essentially your full program or vast majority of program into the digital space. So that's great job there. So Haram, moving back to you, I'd love to understand more about and talk about how partner behavior and the changes in their behavior with the program impacts the business. So could you share with us one concrete example of where an industrial leader changed how they use their program, and you saw real growth as a result of that to your business?
Sure, and you can call them leader because it was one of our top 5 distributors. So we had a traditional industrial distributor, has been around for 100 years, deep connections within their territories, knows a lot of electrical contractors, specifying engineers. They've traditionally relied on that to drive revenues. However, we wanted them to sort of start spending more in terms of digital marketing. So once we had our marketing on-demand platform cleaned up, we invited them back in, told them that, hey, do you want to pilot like a digital marketing effort? And they said, great. We had a turnkey solution for them where we had an agency. All they had to do was click a button and say that, okay, spend my money for co-op. And quickly they realized they got about a little over 100 leads in a span of 3 months at a pretty reasonable cost per lead. So it was about $80 in terms of cost per lead, but traditionally we have seen it around $150 to $200 cost per lead. That really opened their eyes that, hey, there's this other avenue where we can sort of tap into and generate some leads. So that was super helpful. They started investing more in their digital efforts. They actually hired someone to sort of redo their website as well. So I would call that as a win.
That's a massive win. I mean, the efficiency, right, that you were able to deliver from a CPO cost perspective, that's huge. And it sounds like there's additional trust also that's been built now with this dealer as well.
Absolutely.
Great job. Haley, in a similar vein, what's one recent campaign or initiative where Echo's investment in your program and resources clearly translated into incremental revenue or deeper loyalty for your dealers?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to my education pillar here. We pride ourselves again on being the first in the industry and in our sector to provide benefits to our dealers. So our by far the most successful element of our program is our dealer taggable assets. So every dollar that a dealer is investing in promoting the Echo brand, they're also promoting their own business. You know, our biggest competitor will take money from our dealers to promote their brand and just expect the halo effect of that to trickle down to the dealers. We don't function that way. Every dollar that goes out in an ad campaign promotes Echo and the creative, right? And we control all of that. So from a brand perspective, we have that capability and that control, but it's always got the dealer name. And again, it's the education. It's going in and explaining to the dealer what that means for their business, that this is an investment in marketing for them, not just for us, because they assume that our program is the same as everyone else's program out there. So it's educating them, showing them, right, like a mock-up of what that ad would look like and explaining to them, like, yes, they'll know about Echo, but they'll know that they can come buy it from you. You're their local dealer. They don't have to do any additional research, right? And we talk about having to leave apps and websites and all of these different things. It's the same thing with a consumer. If they leave and we don't continue to send them down the funnel, the likelihood is that we lose that purchase. So this is keeping them there. They go to the landing page with your address, your phone number, your email, you know, your name, and they know that they can come purchase from you. So that's by far been the most successful element of our program. We can launch new tactics in YouTube and PMAX and offer coffee mugs and all of these different things, and all of that is great. But if they don't understand how it ultimately benefits them and helps them grow their business, it does no good.
Exactly. It's all about focusing on the dealer's business and what it means to them. And so based off of the changes that you've made with your program, what sort of impact have you seen on your business as it pertains to the competition? Because you shared with me some interesting insights earlier.
Yeah, so in the past about 2 or 3 years, we've gained 6 points in market share. So that comes from various different realms, but it proves that our dealers are continuing to reinvest in our business, right? So while the industry is down, our business is not. So we're gaining market share from our competitors. Again, at Echo, we pride ourselves on being easy to do business with. That's from everything from a supplier to an end user, right? In terms of filing a warranty claim. So by being a good partner back to the dealer's business, you know, we're competing in dealerships with, you know, double-digit brands, right? Some of them can have up to 10 or 12 different brands when you talk about mower brands, other outdoor power equipment. You know, a lot of them are in hardscapes, and they've just got so many programs that they have to know and understand and memorize and execute on a daily basis. So if ours provides their business value, not just our business value, they will pick ours over others.
Exactly. That's great. So shifting gears a little bit, but somewhat in a similar vein in terms of the data behind understanding what's working, what's not, what levers to pull. So this is a question for you both. I'll start with you, Haram. When you're looking at the data in your reporting dashboards, what are the top KPIs that you look at to understand the value that each of your partners is bringing to you?
So the number one metric obviously is spend, and we keep a close track of what they're spending. Are they spending on the right things? So we look at the mix of the spend as well. Are they spending more on branded merchandise versus digital marketing versus events? Events is huge for us. So the couple of metrics that we look at is leads generated and new contacts created. So those would be some of the key things that we would look at. So the spend, marketing mix, and leads and contacts generated.
Mm-hmm. And how about yourself, Haley?
Yeah, ours is spend, right? Our participation level, right? So if our dealers continue to participate, they're happy, right? They're investing their own money into our program. So if we continue to see a few percentage, point increase year over year, we know that they're happy, right? They see value in our program and they keep coming back and giving us their money year over year. Obviously, from a marketing perspective, based on, the tactic, I have my own KPIs that I keep an eye on. But ultimately, when we sit down at the end of the year and go, were we successful? It was, did we grow our investment year over year?
Wonderful. And that tracks exactly with essentially the point that we're trying to make here with co-op utilization increase. So another question for you both. If you could add one new capability or program next year in order to accelerate growth, incremental growth with your partners, what would it be and why that over everything else?
Do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. Ours is e-commerce, right? The reason being it's lower funnel, right? So we need to be in front of customers when they're ready to make a purchase. And I know Ansira has plenty of capabilities for that. It just hasn't been a big focus from a marketing perspective for us. So that'll be something that we look to invest in and commit to, is developing some programs and some guidelines for how we promote our products and build our e-commerce presence in partnership with our dealers.
Wonderful. And how about you, Hiram?
So we, as I mentioned, we did this digital marketing pilot with one of our biggest distributors. We tried with two other distributors as well. And we generated a lot of information about the leads, but we were not able to show a complete ROI on that. So we did not know how many leads actually translated into sales. And it's difficult because our sales cycle is pretty long, 6 to 8 months. But if I had the capability, I would really love to go that extra mile and see that, okay, how many of these leads can actually generate sales? And then I'll have a complete ROI picture on my marketing investment. So fingers crossed we'll get there, hopefully this year or maybe next, but that's my goal.
And we will partner with you to help you do that.
Awesome.
All right. So in closing, I have a question for you all to leave the audience with. So what's one thing that you would never do again with your partner program? And then what's one thing that you would always ensure that you're doing now that you know what works?
All right, I'm going to cheat a little bit on my answer here. So one thing we would never do is not let them participate. And then the thing that we would always do is always make them participate, right? But on a serious note, we, again, pride ourselves on customization, having lots of options available. So we just don't make it an option to do nothing, right? And so an engaged partner is an invested partner is a growing partner. So we always, again, even if it's just the first step, once you take that first step, the second, third, fourth are so much easier. So it is a requirement in our program that you do some sort of participation. And what that can look like, again, is customized based on the needs of the dealer, the needs of the distributor. What anyone's participation looks like is unique. But yeah, we just don't let them do nothing. And then, right, we can continue to grow them and build them to be these big examples of what a dealer should look like. But on the always do side is always listen, right? That does not mean that we will always make a change based on the feedback that we're hearing. But if you're not hearing the feedback, you're losing. So, right, if you start to hear the same things over and over again, then we take a look at, okay, what can we do better? What do we need to do differently? So again, it doesn't always result in a change or an outcome, but always listen, because, and also just with people feeling like they're heard, you get over that first, obstacle, because they just want to feel connected. And again, that's one of the most important things to us at Echo, is that our customers feel connected to our brand.
Mm-hmm. It goes back to the relationship piece that you were mentioning earlier, right?
Absolutely.
I would completely agree, by the way. So I would flip your answer and say what I would never do is, generally we've got this mentality that build and they will come. It doesn't work with dealers. If you say that, hey, here's MOD, go have fun, they'll spend all their money on coffee mugs and hats for all like. So you have to sort of hold their hand and show them that, hey, here are all these other avenues. Let's sit, let's discuss, let's see how we can work on this together, and sort of guide them. Might be easier for someone like me who has only 25 dealers. Might be difficult if you've got 2,500 dealers, but pick some of the biggest hitters and try to have these conversations, and I think that would be super helpful. So one thing that I would never do is just leave our dealers to it and hope that they use the platform. The one thing that I would always do, one of the things that we found interesting was because our distributors are split by their own geographies, they don't really compete with each other. They normally play nice. So they actually are very open to sort of sharing ideas, sharing their successes. So we created forums where these dealers could talk to each other and said that, hey, here's how I use this platform, or here's how I use this initiative, and this is the success that we have seen. And that sort of motivates other dealers more than us as corporate saying something that, hey, go do this. So just think about in your field, if you've got dealers which play nice, which are likely to share things with each other, use that as well. So that's one thing that I would encourage more.
Great words of wisdom. Thank you both. Really appreciate today's conversation, and I thank you all as well for joining us today.